Bold, strong, united are a few words we can use to describe the movement created by our next guest. She's anti-racism activist and author, Beverly Bryan. Welcome to Smile Jamaica.
Morning.
How are you?
I'm fine. I was just taken in by all of what you said.
It's great to have you with us. You're speaking with Dahlia and Neville. I saw a headline. It says the British Black Panther who inspired a generation of women.
Yeah.
Beverly Bryan, tell me about your early journey.
Okay. Let me say that even though I'm speaking here, you have to understand that when we talk about the context of the United Kingdom, you are talking about Black British civil rights movements, really, that I was a part of. That's what it was, really. I became a part of that when I left Jamaica from Portland, Ferry Hill, joined my parents, part of that Windrush movement in the UK, schooled in Jamaica, schooled in London, and facing up to all the kinds of racism that we had to deal with. My parents had to deal with in the 50s, and I had to deal with in the 60s in particular when I was in school. So part of joining that movement is understanding that it was not okay to just react, that you had to be part of organizations, work with other people who also wanted to create a better life for themselves in the United Kingdom. So in the first instance, I was part of a Black Arts workshop. We did a lot. We went around to youth groups performing poetry, talking to young people. Just really for them to feel proud and acknowledged in the society. All of us wanted to feel that way. But it was also at the time when the Black movement, there was a growing Black awareness. After that, I joined the British Black Panther movement, and there we were more concerned with dealing with the police brutality, dealing with the education system and the way in which it really excluded young Black people and really denied their achievements. And after that, I joined. I was a founder member of the Brixton Black Women's Group, and there we were concerned again with education, with police brutality, but also with the position of women and how we can make that more of a central part of our community work. So those examples, I'm just showing that there was a movement through the 60s, 70s, 80s. There was a civil rights movement in England that I was a part of. I suppose my place is made more has come to the fore because of the writing that I did. I'm an academic, as you probably know. I taught at the University of the West Indies, and I've done a lot of writing. But one of the books I was really proud of was this one, A Heart of the Race: Black Women's Lives in Britain, and
Yeah.
that has really become a book that a lot of young people still, it was written 30 years ago, but young people still refer to it. It was republished in 2018.
Yeah.
And it's something that's proved pretty valuable to a lot of people,
Yeah.
to a lot of,
Professor,
especially,
I'm sorry to jump in, Professor, but there are areas in the world now that it's tough to be Black. I can't imagine what it was like back then, but how tough was it back then?
okay. I think, well, I can talk about my parents probably would have been the ones who had it the hardest because it was difficult to get housing. So that's why they had to really put together and get their own place. You know, people would be called names in the street and would respond to that. You've heard of the Notting Hill riots.
Yep.
That was one way in which um, Jamaicans, Caribbean people responded to racism. But we also, as I said, responded to it by organizing. To say it's tough being black, it's still the case that even though we made gains in those movements, it's still the case that, you know, it is still tough to be black all over the world, even in Jamaica. Some would say. So we still have to continue in our campaigns, in the struggles, and in
Yep.
organizing.
Yeah.
Of
Professor,
course.
I'm listening to you. Last week we were talking about Una Marson. Now we
Yes.
have yourself, Claudia Jones, Amy Ashwood Garvey.
Yes.
What is it? I don't know if you can even respond to what I'm asking, but what is it about the Caribbean female experience that almost drives you to the forefront of racism and feminism in the UK and the kind of activism that you all have over the years engaged in?
I think, well,
I know.
I'm just thinking about those people. Yes, I think that we are pretty strong. Black women are strong. I don't want to overdo it to say that we have no kind of tender parts to us, but we can we can withstand a lot of difficulties. We know how to organize, and we're prepared to organize and to work hard and stay with an issue, stay with a problem, and see it through. I think we're also very quite self-aware, and we know that if we don't get involved, a lot of things are not going to get done. So I know that for myself, I'm someone, if I do stay with organizations and try and get them to work, and to get them to work in the best way. So I think that's part of it.
Yeah.
Is that we're strong and determined, really.
Yeah. One of the great things about some of the names that I mentioned is, including yourself, you publish, you write about it, and so it's sustained the ideas and the activism. How do you feel about your legacy? I mean, you know, republished in 2018, inspiring women of this generation to be as active as you are.
Well, it's heartening, and it's humbling in a way, because for many, when Versa came to us about republishing the book, I noticed that there was quite a lot of interest amongst young people, young women and men as well, but especially young women. I was a little surprised that the legacy had continued in such a strong way. But I think that shows you that some of the issues are still with us,
Yeah.
and that they need solutions still. And I am really heartened that they take inspiration from what we've done in the past, but also recognizing that the struggle continues and you have to keep on working. And even though you make gains, those gains are really provisional. You have to keep guarding them to make sure that, you know, you don't slide back and things don't get worse. So it's good to know that there are young people who are still interested in organizing, still working for civil rights, either here or in the UK.
Yeah.
And of course, we know America as that strong
Yes.
tradition.
I know you're retired now, Professor. So how do you spend your time now? Aren't you a little bored? Aren't you a little bored now that you don't?
Not at all. I still, with COVID, I still do most of the stuff by Zoom. I do a lot of Zoom calls. I do work in London, but I'm also continuing to do research. I like research. I'm interested in family history research, in really turning some of my research skills in work around my family, around my district, around the history of Portland, my particular area, Fairy Hill and Zion Hill. There's not much written about those places, and I think those small communities and districts of Jamaica are worth highlighting because we have a rich history, which is not just about what happened on the big plantations, but what happened in small communities after slavery and also in families. I'm really interested in finding out more about Jamaican family history, rural history.
Such an accomplished woman, ma'am. Really, really great to meet you. Thank you so much for being a part of our show this morning, and be safe. Take care, please.
Thank you.
Professor Beverly Bryan, anti-racism activist and author.
All right, Smile Jamaica returns right after this quick break with Creative Gifting Solutions. We'll soon come.